Hey there. Welcome to 2024 with Career Retrospectives right here on the Super Review Show Network. I'm joined by my two incredible friends, Kyle and Mike. What's going on, guys?
Hey guys,
Yo,
happy
happy
2024.
New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year indeed. It's glad to have you all back. It's good to be back. We're welcoming ourselves back at this point. No, but as the title of this podcast suggests, Kyle spun the wheel and it landed on his pick finally of Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy from 2010. Wow, we have a lot to say on this, don't we? But as we said though, we spun the wheel and we landed on Kyle's pick. So I'm gonna let my good man go first with this one. Kyle, Kanye West?
Yeah, so we're just gonna be talking about just his music today.
Yes.
Ignore the past 2 years.
Oh God.
Um, but yeah, Kanye is one person that actually I've enjoyed a vast majority of his music that I've heard. Uh, Only actually have listened to two or three full albums by him. This surprisingly is not one of them. This is the first time going into it, so I was relatively blind outside of the few big hits off of it. So I was super excited to get into this one. And for being on what was it, the Rolling Stones top, was it 200 albums of all time, 100 albums,
I think they're 500 albums from
500,
2020. Yeah.
whatever, yeah, whichever one it was, their last iteration of that. Seeing this one on there, I think another one of his was as well, but this one was the one that was higher up. So I was like, all right, we'll check it out. It's a fan favorite. Um, uh, that's all I'll say so far. Yeah. Um, how are we doing this, JT? We're going down the track list now.
Yeah, let's go down the track listing. One second.
Do that
Sorry about
one?
that.
Okay.
Pull it up for you. Yep. I was just
All
trying
right.
to. It's
So
been a lot of scrolling today. Forgive me.
yeah, I'll just go one by one here. A lot of writers, a lot of samples. Most of the writers comes from the samples.
Yeah.
Dark fantasy. Uh, Nicki Minaj spoken word intro for the first part of it, down to this one's a 7 for me. It uses that "can we get much higher" chorus far too much for me. I like the rap. Kanye's rap on here is great, lyrically clever at times. It wears out its welcome a bit, especially toward the end. Gorgeous. We got a 6 here. And one thing, this is gonna go throughout a majority of the record. Too many features, way too many features. Most of the time, the features were my least favorite parts of the songs, and I think they would have been stronger without them for a decent portion of it. I do love in this song, though, the reference to the South Park's fish sticks joke. Uh, that's fantastic. There's also the line about his two black nuts, which is also hysterical. But we're going from just a pure musical standpoint. That guitar riff that they incorporate into the beat throughout the entire song gets annoying as hell. Uh, Other than that, the rap again is good. Then we get to the first actually really good song, in my opinion, on this, which is Power, which uses its use of samples on this is incredible. That's something that Kanye does very well, is he knows how to sample things. Uh, this is Kanye's rapping at its best, in my opinion. I personally love when he uses that egotistical bravado that he has, and it's on full display here. That's by far best attitude. Kanye's the best. The beat on here, this is Kanye's not his best beat, but that's another thing that he excels at, or at least used to excel at, was these great beats. He's a great producer, great beat writer. The only time this falls apart, though, could be higher, but there's this bridge at the end that just really falls off. Could have cut that. And that's another thing on a lot of the tracks here, is there are just certain parts, bridges or just outros, that could be left off altogether, and the project would have been better off for it. Then you have the All of the Lights interlude. It's just an interlude leading into the next track. It is what it is. Not going to rate that. And then we have my probably first really unpopular opinion, All of the Lights. This is a relatively big hit song. Rihanna sings the chorus on here. This is 6 for me. I don't like this hectic beat that they have going on in a lot of parts throughout it. It makes it sound chaotic and conjumbled and not in a great way. I'm sure some people love that, just not for me. Uh, I've never liked Rihanna's voice, so that drags it down a lot for me. I just don't like Rihanna, the tone of her voice. She's a technically proficient singer, just her tone is not for me. Sonically, this song works though. The production here is fantastic. It sounds great. It's just not for me. I totally see why it's a hit, big fan favorite. Totally get it. Then we get to Monster. Straight 9 out of 10. We're back to a really great track here. This is one where I feel like all the features, for the most part, work fantastically. This is Nicki Minaj's best rap verse she's ever done, and I'll stand by that. She steals the show in this, 100%. This would, this would be a 10 without the final verse that comes after Nicki Minaj's verse. Why you would have such a strong verse and then go into a lackluster outro for like 45 seconds, beyond me. Totally beyond me. Really threw it off. Other than that, though, killer track. All of the features are fantastic here. So appalled. This is a 7. This reminds me less of a Kanye song and more of an old school Drake track back from when Drake was tolerable. Almost all the features here are good. Not much to say about it. Pretty standard track. 7. Too many features on it again. Devil in a New Dress. Finally, the first one that I really don't like. Now, I'm sure Mike is going to come back and be like, this is the best one. This is the only one I like. But no, it's. We'll see. This is a 4. I don't like the beats here because I don't like any beats that include just pitched and altered vocals as a main aspect of the beat. I find them annoying. I don't think they add anything to the music. I think they actually just detract from it altogether. The song could have been salvaged a little bit, maybe up to a 5, maybe even a 6, if that Rick Ross feature wasn't there. That part was horrendous. Probably one of the worst verses, if not the worst verse on this record. I also can't stand, one of my biggest pet peeves is when a song just ends abruptly. Nothing to it. It just stops. And I feel like he didn't know how to end the song and was just like, yeah, just hit the pause button on the recording. That's it. Just hit stop. So yeah, 4 out of 10. But then we hit what I honest to God think is the best run of tracks on the record, starting with Runaway. This is an absolute iconic, classic song, one of Kanye's masterpieces from beginning to end. It's an incredibly long song, but it doesn't feel like it's as long as it is. Has some great lyrics on it. The production is killer. That piano instrumental there, iconic, even though it's so simple. 9-minute track that really only half to 3/4 of it is rap, and the rest of it's kind of like instrumental with some kind of distorted, like spoken things here and there. Really love this one. I've always loved this one. It was one of the only tracks on here that I knew going into it. Still maintain this is probably the best track on here, with the only other contender being the next track, Hell of a Life. This was awesome. I love this. This is the kind of rap that I like. Just a fun, like ego-driven, aggressive rap song. Love the Iron Man sample on this. Love the distortion on it. Very well done. The piano riffing that follows the chorus, really cool. Great beat. And I love that there's no feature on here. None. It's just Kanye doing Kanye with some samples, and it works so well for that reason. So yeah, another
Is that Tony Iommi and Butler? They're all credited here. I like that.
Yep. Well, that's why this one has so many writers, is because of the amount of samples on it. They had to credit all the different writers. Then we get the Blame Game, which continues the streak of good tracks. It's an 8 out of 10 for me. Surprising because normally I can't stand most things that John Legend touches. He didn't really drag this one down too much, though. The verses I thought were really great, kind of telling this like messed up love story. The beat is really good. Piano fits this one really well. The vocal effects on the second verse actually really worked very well for me on this. I thought it was a really cool touch, and it kind of how it kind of phased and shifted from the left speaker, the right speaker, and all that. Really well done. And the skit at the end featuring Chris Rock, I thought that was hysterical. That was funny. Good stuff. And then the album just dies with the biggest whimper. Lost in the World, or yeah, Lost in the World is the worst song on here by far. No, not even a contest. I didn't like anything about this one other than a tiny amount of
Say
decent
it.
lines here and there. Like, I hate this.
Say it.
I hate overly auto-tuned vocals, and that is frequent throughout so much of this track. There's a handful of like decent lines you could pick out, so that saves it from being totally an abomination. And it's well produced and it sounds good. That's something I can give the entire album. But this is a 3 for me. I hated this. Worst track, and then Who Will Survive in America? Spoken word ending. I can't even rate it. It's just there. It's an okay outro. But yeah, I mean, overall, this album, I feel like it's at its best when you have Kanye being his egotistical self, showing off that like bravado he has, giving these like more aggressive tracks. He's the best part of the album, no surprise. Most of the features fall flat. It and the ones that don't are just okay. Minus that Nicki Minaj verse, and Jay-Z's verse that he throws in there is pretty okay too. But what I can give the album is that it is incredibly well produced. It holds up. It still sounds modern 14 years later, which does not feel like 14 years since this came out. I do remember when it came out, and it does not feel like that long ago, but it still sounds very modern. It sounds better produced than most things I hear today. So I got to give it that. Even songs I don't like, I can't deny they are sonically fantastic. Overall, I give this album a 7. It's not perfect. I don't think it's as incredible as some of the diehard Kanye fans hold it up to be. I think some of his other albums are better from what I've heard, but this is a solid album with some really good tracks.
All right, you heard it here first. There's Kyle's rating a 7 out of 10 for My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy by Kanye West. I would like to go next, if that's okay.
Yeah, do it.
I will, Mike. I will. So I just really quick thing. Kanye is a rapper that I have never. I mean, I've liked probably maybe 3 of his songs over his whole career. He's one of those artists. He's one of those artists who I knew he was there. I just never like grew up listening to him or liked him that much to begin with. And then his comments recently, we're not talking about it, but like they really like irked a lot of people. And I was one of those people like, okay, he's going that way. Okay, bye-bye. One of those things. But I mean, but when you look back at it, I do respect him enough like to say, he has chops. He's got chops and talent to at least put out well-produced records. And as Kyle just mentioned, but I didn't really listen to him outside of like Black Skinhead and a couple of collaborations with Jay-Z. That's about it. And then I would then Kyle's like, hey, this is on the list. I said, okay, sure, let's give it a shot. So, but here we are. I'm gonna go down this one track by track as well. Dark Fantasy. Because going and this is my first exposure to any Kanye West album. I only know like a couple other hit singles outside of this, but this is my first actual album listened to by him in general. So, Dark Fantasy. This is solid 8 out of 10. I was very pleased by this track. I thought it was actually very well done, and I'm gonna kind of put my foot down a little bit more here and echo what Kyle was saying. The production, when I saw this came out in 2010, I was like, all right, you think some things would sound dated? Kyle is 100% right. This does not sound dated whatsoever. Like 14 years later, you'd think, all right, this wouldn't hold up, that wouldn't hold up. No, the production is really solid. I'm gonna keep echoing that throughout this whole thing, but the production on Dark Fantasy alone, 8 out of 10. Great kickoff to the record, really good overall. And then it's not my style of rap. It's not my love of hip hop, but I was vibing with it. I get it. I can see why it's a fan favorite or a popular one. I get it. But it's good. Gorgeous featuring Kid Cudi. I'm gonna butcher that. And Raekwon, whatever. I'm not gonna butcher that.
JT, shockingly, you were pretty on. You're pretty on par.
I was. How about that? That's great.
Cudi and Raekwon.
Kid Cudi and Raekwon. Good to know. Thank you, buddy. But gorgeous. It's listening to it again and again leading up to our stream tonight. I the more I thought about it, I said, it's funny. The album starts off with a bang with Dark Fantasy, and then it goes to Gorgeous. It's a little bit of a dip, and then I'll get to Power in a second. But this is solid, like 7 out of 10, 7.5 out of 10, pushing 7.5. I enjoyed it for what it was, and it definitely it resonated with it as I listened to it more and more. It resonated with me more and more. I would go back to this, so the first 2-3 tracks a lot more than I thought it would. Ironically enough, with Power, I knew this song. I had no idea what song it was when it first came out, but I knew what it was. But the moment I heard it, I'm like, oh, that's that song. That's right. So this is a 10 out of 10. Power is a 10, and this is coming from a guy who's you're listening to a guy who's not the biggest Kanye West fan to begin with, but Power, this is a great song. This is a 10 out of 10. It's really strong piece of music that really, I could tell by Spotify stream numbers, it's a very popular stream song as well. Great song overall. This is my probably my first and only 10 out of 10, truthfully, for this record. But Power is a great song. All of the Lights, the interlude before it, I was gonna rate it and be like, all right, well, listen, it's an interlude leading into it. I get it. It's not, but the interlude leading into it didn't really do much for me. And All of the Lights as a regular song didn't really do much for me either. We're sitting like probably 6.5, pushing 7 out of 10. I'll give it that for All of the Lights. It was not great. It's kind of like I'm just what I'm saying is I'm very up and down with this record because I'm not super familiar with Kanye West as an artist outside of like 2 or 3 songs or 3 or 4 songs. But this one, I guess, is a fan favorite, a popular one. It didn't rub off on me the way I thought it would, given that I saw how many streams it has on Spotify. But when I listened to it, I could see why it has that commercial sensibility or that sensibility to it. I just was not it was good. It wasn't great. Wasn't anything special, but it's a solid like 6.5 or 7 out of 10. Monster featuring Jay-Z, Rick Ross, Nicki Minaj, and Bon Iver. Completely agree with Kyle that there's way too many features. When I first saw this, like on the track listing, when I was doing the Spotify listen through, I was like, why do we have like 5 singers on one track? This is what I don't like in music today in general, is when there's like 30 writers, 30 producers, and 30 people on one song. It's not that hard to write a song or a rap or whatever. You know what I mean? And this is like the features were good for me. They worked well for me, but I mean, as more listens to it went through, I was less impressed by it a little bit here and there. But the actual track by Kanye himself, though, was actually pretty good. But the features on it with Jay-Z, I thought was a strong point. Nicki Minaj, as Kyle said, was a strong point as well for me as well. But the rest of it is just like whenever I just see like featuring Jay-Z, Rick Ross, Nicki Minaj, and Bon Iver, I'm like, is this a movie? Are we just casting people into different roles at this point? I was like, what's going on here? I was like, there's too many people on one song. Ridiculous. I'm a little sick, forgive me. And the same thing with this one. Like, so Monster and Saul Paul are kind of the same way here. I am not like, here's the thing. Again, it's kind of like copy repeat for me here with the Monster and Saul Paul. I'm listening to it and I'm like, this is just a repeat of what I just heard 5 minutes ago. Like it's another Kanye West song with Jay-Z on it, but there's like 30 other people. There's like 6 other people on here as well that I just don't know or have never heard of, and they didn't really add to the songs for me. They're so appalled, like featuring Swizz Beats or Pusha T or Chaya the Prince or Rizza. I'm gonna butcher it the way I wanted to. Like it's just too much for me. And I have no problem with features. I really don't. But when you have like 20 features or like 10 people on one song, it gets convoluted in my opinion. So that kind of fell into that trap for me with So Appalled. But however, with Devil in a New Dress featuring Rick Ross, I did not mind the feature, and the song itself is actually a solid, like, excuse me, I'm butchering. I'm a little sick. Forgive me. It's a solid 6 out of 10. It's nothing great. It's nothing special. It's kind of very mid for me, but I did like it overall, though. So that's why I gave it a 6. I'm going to, I hate to be this guy. I might be the villain tonight. I'm not sure.
Well, so
Run
far,
away?
every score you've given has been above mine.
Okay. All right. That's fair.
Actually, no, I think all of them. So keep going.
Okay. I wasn't sure. But Runaway, Oh my God. When this song first started and I heard that piano intro, I was like, is Elton John okay? Like, is he all right? Like, I started having a panic attack. I was like, what's going on? The first, like, it's a 9 minute track. I get it. I have no problem with long songs. Some of my favorite songs of all time are long songs, but that piano intro, man, I was getting nervous for the previous listeners of this song. I was like, what's going on here? I never heard the song before, never heard the song before at all, and I was like, damn, this is really trippy and getting kind of scary. Actually, not gonna lie, this is like a 3 out of 10. I'm sorry, I hate to be that guy here. But this one is like, it's just the instrumentation on it is it's just strange and it didn't work for my personal taste. And if you liked it, great, that's awesome. But for me personally, Runaway featuring Pusha T, I'm sorry, I could not do this over and over again. It was hard to get. This was brutal for me to get through. This one track was Runaway. I was like, we're back to this one again. What's going on? It's like having a moment of crisis
The
here. I was like,
hottest take I've ever heard from JT.
I know. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry. I hate to be that guy. I really hate being. I'm not one to diss or bash things, but this song was just so like, it's just there. I hate being that guy, but man, my God, that piano intro just like when I first heard it, I was like, "What's going on? Is Kanye okay? What's happening? What's going on? Like, is he
Well, I
okay
guess
in
the
the
answer to
recordings?"
that question is always a resounding no.
No, exactly. Kanye is never okay, everyone. And as Runaway was a testament to that. I'm sorry. I hate to be that guy. It's a 3 out of 10. It was not that good. And then the rest of the tracks, this is where I kind of slightly disagree with Kyle on this one, only because like the stretch of songs here, like I'll get to the track 13 in a second, but like Hell of a Life, it's this is like a 4.5, maybe a 5 out of 10. Nothing super special for me. It's good. It's very, very mid though. It's very, very mid good, in my opinion. Blame Game. I mean, John Legend's feature. I could barely tell that John Legend was in there. If I'm being honest with you, it was just like he's just, hey, I'm John Legend. I'm there. He wasn't even like he didn't feel that prominent as much as I thought he would be. Um, but I didn't mind the track. This is like a solid like 4.5, maybe 5. Again, by 5 out of 10. Lost in the World featuring Bon Iver. I see Bon Iver's name so many times, and I don't even know who the guy is, to be honest with you. I've never even like
Bon Jovi's brother. So
exactly. It's Bon Jovi's
no,
brother.
just don't. That's not true, folks. So
No,
don't take me
Bon
literally.
Iver. There's no
Actually,
Bon
Don
Ivers.
Scott's brother.
It's John Bon Jovi's
Yeah.
cousin, Bon Iver. There we go. No, it's not. I've seen his name popped over so many times, and I'm like, who is this guy? Anyways, featuring Bon Iver didn't really work for me. Lost this like just a 4 out of 10. It's kind of just there. Unfortunately, maybe pushing a 3.5 or if a 4, if that. And then this final like speech, I want to say, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like it's like a speech at the end of the album. Who will survive in America? It's like one of those things. I could see Kanye West being like, "Who will survive in America?" And I'm like, okay, that's the kind of. It's only been 38 seconds of pure garbage. So that's just me. But I was having a moment of Christ there. But yeah, but where this album does, I'm sick. But where this album thrives, though, for me personally, I'm sorry, guys. I have a little bit of a cough. But this album does thrive in many different ways. As Kyle mentioned, the production. The more I think about it, and the more I realize that the production is that strong. It's from 2010. That's 14 years ago now, in 2024. Excuse me. Um, but and Kanye's, I will say the strong points though are Kanye's raps. Where the album falls apart for me personally, is the features and the excess sampling of like other artists. It didn't quite work out for me the way I wanted it to. I know I'm saying about like a 5.5, maybe pushing a 6, give or take. The good stuff is really good, but the bad stuff kind of like weighs it down quite a bit. So I'm sitting at like a 5.5 push, like just pushing a 6 out of 10. Maybe. So I'm very, very mid on this. Whenever it comes to stuff like this, I typically my rating gets weighed down a lot because of how the rating not how the rating is, how the whatever's good amplifies it. Whenever if there's a lot of bad though, that weighs a lot of it down. So that's why I'm giving it a 5.5, like just pushing a 6 out of 10 for me on that. But Kanye, he has chops, he has talent. He's a really good rapper overall, and I think whatever he comes up with is like Black Skinhead I thought was fantastic in 2013. But that's just me. But That's another conversation for another time. But yeah, bottom line, I'm sitting at a solid 5.5, or actually just pushing a 6 out of 10 for me personally. For Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Mike, you love this record, didn't you?
Oh yeah, man. I'm getting a tattoo actually as we speak off camera. So if you see me, if you hear me wince, scream, or yelp, forgive me. For those wearing headphones, headphone warning. But
Okay.
yeah, so I actually, you know, growing up, I was obviously later into my years of listening to rap and stuff. Like Kanye kind of came to prominence, and you know, was you just couldn't go without hearing his name. And I, on purpose, would butcher his name to the kids talking about him so that I looked like an uninformed, uncool white guy. So I would say, I would say Kayani West and Cayenne West, just to make them look at me and go, oh, this guy doesn't know anything. But I've never been like against his sound. I've always appreciated his ability to kind of maintain some of that old school vibe alongside some like new, the new rap kind of feel to it, which I feel like he definitely captures in this album. It has some of the throwback sound, and a lot of the tracks almost feels like there's a Motown feel over here, maybe like an old school, like, maybe Biggie or Tupac kind of feeling on some of the tracks here and there. And then you have some kinds of more like artsy kind of stuff that's done for more of an effect to that manner, to feel like it's your like it's this twisted fantasy, whatever. More of the arts kind of feel to it. So I appreciate that stuff too, because a lot of rappers don't go into that realm. But nowadays it's more common, which maybe Kanye opened the doors for this kind of thing. So I mean, who knows? But yeah, just kind of coming straight up into it. We get to the dark fantasy song, and you get this kind of spoken word kind of intro, which is kind of strange. Almost feels like it's from like some Tim Burton movie or something like that. And then you have like, I didn't know it was Nicki Minaj. And now I like it less. But yeah, like I just feel like, it's just it repeats a lot. Kind of echoing Kyle. I've never been a fan of just repetitive music, which is why I've struggled to like rap music in general. Loops and beats and this and that. You have to be able to take loops and progress them into a song where the song changes direction and kind of it resolves and it uses what it's done and eventually develops into a full song. There are a bunch of tracks on this album that suffer from the lack of development, where they're just a loop of a riff, aka Gorgeous, where it's just, hey, here's this riff, and I'm going to rap over top of it. That is not a song, Kanye. That is you rapping over top of a beat and a riff. You have to be able to make a statement with the song by changing the song eventually and going into a certain direction. And it's okay to come back to what you were doing and continue it, but develop the song. And I feel the first two tracks suffer from that. To just be able to pull that off. I mean, that ooh ooh ooh, so it just starts driving me nuts. I just at one point I thought of the Muppet chorus for some reason. I just thought of like, the Muppet movie, like where they're all like like, and it just started becoming more funny than it did like me taking it seriously. But I do appreciate the old school feeling. Like I could only imagine if Kanye had made this same album today with the mumble rap and this kind of stuff going on. Like I could only imagine that the album would lack an old school feel and sound so tinsy, and with the way the beats sound today, where everything sounds just like very kind of trebly and annoying, that this album could have really been bad. So yeah, this was just a 5 for me. Originally it was at like a 6.5, but as I listened to it, I just become more annoyed at it. And I just brought the number down. I was like, just started annoying me. And the same thing for Gorgeous, 5 out of 10. Nothing special. It's just, I like the use of the guitars, the old school feeling, but it just fails to change the direction and really do anything. And that kind of leads me to Power. I sit separately from you guys here. Power just I felt like the beat was okay. The beat was good. The lyrics, honestly, to tell you the truth, on this whole album, none of the raps really blew my mind. Um, there's some stupid stuff said, and that's another one of my major gripes about rap. I mean, Kyle would call it lacking fun,
Yeah,
but
Mike.
yes, I will agree with you. I wear that as a badge of honor. I struggle to like to to enjoy funny, stupid lyrics than the average person. But I do appreciate them when well done, like well placed, not like continuously. So, the beat's good. It's just, but it just once again, it's got the cool melody in there. The second half of the song's got some cool stuff going on. I'll be honest with you on that. That's something I definitely applaud the song for. But it just starts off. It kind of, what the song kind of almost reminds me of is Beyonce. Like what her beat, like the beat that she used in one of her older albums, almost probably came around the same time as this album, I'd imagine. I'll have to look back into that and give you more. Well, I won't be giving it to you in this video, but I'll be talking amongst the co-hosts, and no one will hear it. I'm sorry, but yeah, just I don't know, it just kind of reminds me of it, So then we kind of come into that intro to all the lights, and then we come to my first song that's reached one of the higher ratings, and I know it's kind of funny. I know if Kyle feels a certain way about it, I feel opposite. But it's one of the first songs I love. I like the horns on it. The horns, the beat almost kind of reminds me of Chicago in a little bit of a way, which is completely opposite of its, obviously. But I love the complexity of the percussion. Where Kyle feels it's chaotic, I feel it adds a much needed change of sound for an album that really isn't doing much in this area. And I like that beat kind of keeps me bobbing throughout the whole thing. And I just actually felt like the was it Rihanna? Her vocals in this are well placed, and they're a well change and development of the song where you feel their structure. It's not just Kanye rapping over top of a loop. It's actually a song where her voice kind of drives the song along and changes. It has a couple different parts that it does, and I feel like it's a much needed structure that the album is suffering from. So I do 7 out of that, 7 for that. Nothing too crazy, but we're coming up on there, and then we get to Monster. It's just not for me. It's just the beats basic. It's just uninventive. It doesn't do much for me. I don't have much to say about it. If anything, a lot of the people coming in and doing their parts on it. I personally wasn't impressed by any of it. And then Nicki Minaj's her line, it's funny, Kyle. Tracy said the exact same thing as you. This is one of the greatest lines ever. Blah 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 blah. I heard it and I was just like, wait, that was it, or is there more? She's like, no, that's over. And I'm like, that's it. Like I thought this was gonna be like face melt. Yeah, I mean, uh, it just I expected it to go much harder than that, and it was just like it was just kind of like maybe this was hard for this era, but you know maybe I don't know, 10 years too late. I don't know. I don't know, but it just didn't do it for me, so I was just like, okay, like 5 out of 10. So then so appalled. It just I don't know. I like the sad sounding keys in this. I like the instrumental in the background. It goes on, but it just like overall, I don't like some of the lyricism and just like the overall. It feels broken and kind of jumbled. It really doesn't doesn't achieve what it wants to achieve. So, but still, it's 6 out of 10. It's pretty basic. There's a lot of that on this album. There's a lot of similarity, a lot of like nothing really breaks out of that box, And then you get to Devil in a Blue Dress. Devil in the blue dress. Oh, hold on, wrong song. Okay. But I like the old school Motown feeling here. Like, and once again, it's got that old kind of sound to it, and I appreciate that. You know, yeah, it's just there. A lot of these, none of these tracks like were beating me over the head. 6 out of 10. And then this song, I call this the potential song. It has so much potential, but fails to ever like ever kind of do what it needs to do to really bring this was actually, it started off, when I first heard it, I was like, this is the best song on the album. But then as I realized that it was just going to do the same thing over and over and over again with that chorus instead of like something else happening, I realized it just felt like someone took a 4 minute, 4.5 minute song and did it twice, like just redid it again and added some different rapping over top of it. And that was frustrating me because it had so much potential with that. If you were to take the first 4 minutes of this song and then do something different instead of just repeat it over again, this would have been a 10. But it just felt lazy. I mean, overall, the whole production on this album is great in the sense of like how it's all assembled, and the way the instrumentation kind of like fits in with the flow of the percussion and how it all kind of fits together there. It just never ever develops. It's just placed so simply, you know what I mean? So yeah, so it just didn't ever round that corner. But I gave it a 7 out of 10. It was too long in the sense that it needed to do something else. And I even, like I told you guys before, I even listen to a song and start playing a melody in my head or creating a melody over top of it. And I felt like, man, I wish it had someone singing over top of it that I hate when Kanye sings too. Ugh. When Kanye sings by himself and he doesn't add a tune, I'm like, shut up, Kanye. Like, it's so much better to hear him with a group than it is like he does that add a tune voice like it's like, dude, Kanye, you're killing it, bro. Like somebody cut his mic, but I digress. So then we get to the best track on this album. Uh Hell of a Life. I mean, awesome. I love the buzz of this. Like it's obviously it's sampled from Iron Man, and the little heavy metal. It's got that like kind of cool, like Kyle was talking about, that cool little like almost like scales, like someone
Mhm.
shredded guitar over top of it, which is cool. It almost feels like a heavy metal song that's been transcribed into rap, which is kind of a cool thing. And just I like Kanye's chorus on it. The lyricism once again is just horrible, but overall, the song is actually one of the better on this album. And I actually that might be a song that makes it into the musical library there. So, and then you get the Blame Game. This actually was one of the better songs, but then overall, I just felt like it was incomplete. Just missing elements of it. It just got it's got this really sentimental sounding orchestra, and then you got this guy saying, "I'm gonna call you bitch for short, and I'm gonna call you," like, I'm just like, dude, you're confusing me. The song music says you're gonna talk about something really life changing and like sentimental, and then you're over here saying some of the dumbest thing that doesn't fit the music. And that's a big problem with this whole album, is that you have a song that sounds like it's gonna tell you a life lesson about living hard and this and that, and then it just starts saying some dumb things like uh you know suck this, and I'm just like, it's ridiculous. Like, and it just confuses me. It really does. So, and then we get to Lost in the World. This song is just lost. And it just sounds like somebody sitting in their living room after they drank, like, I don't know, like 5 or 6 freaking Bud Lights, and they're playing around with auto tune alone. And like, I'm just like, why is this a song on an album? It's trying to be artsy, and it's just falling on its face. 3 out of 10, just wretched. And then we get to someone repeating the same words over and over again for most of it. And it was just, I'm not gonna rate that. So yeah, we come down to the final rating. Like I said, I've got a 5.5, but I usually do my negative half a point for either going up or plus half a point either going down. And yeah, like overall, it does some things. It does some artsy kind of things. It does whatever. I'm actually going to leave it at a 5.5 because I didn't feel like it needed a negative or a positive on either side. It has some cool things going on with some old school feels on it. It's got some interesting things going on beat wise. It was an iconic album to many, not to me, but I can see where they get their ideas from or where they're coming from. If rap still sounded like this today, instead of being the current evolution that we're in now, I actually prefer it sounded like this. I could even pop this up to a 6, and say, hey, like rap could be worse than this, and it currently is. I would prefer it go back to the old school beats, not the mumble rap. Like I would actually prefer it go back to this, and you know, like, but unfortunately, we're where we are. So, I think 5.5 is actually pretty fair rating for it. And like I said, I might even say 6 if we're comparing it to rap today. I would probably do a 6, but I'll do 5.5 for knee jerk reaction. So there you go.
And I wish Kanye would go back to something like this. That last
Don't we
Donda
all?
album he did was not very good.
Oy,
His
oy.
most his most recent release, right?
Well, Donda 1, I'm referring to. Donda 2 was really bad, but that was just kind of not officially ever released. It was released on that weird stem player thing he did.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, wasn't sure. So overall, you heard it here first. It's Kage with a 7 out of 10. Mike and I are both in the same boat at about a 5.5 out of 10. But you heard it here first. That's our rating for Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. I forgot the title for a
And
second.
Anthony Fantano gave this a 6 out of 10, which he still gets grief for to
Mhm.
this day. I watched somebody, they wanted him to reevaluate. He goes, okay, 5 out of 10. And they're like, no,
You
I'm
guys
not
are getting the
touching.
same hate.
I was like, not down. I was telling you reevaluate it in an up. He went down. So you never ask someone to redo something because it might just come out worse.
Exactly. Anthony Fantana, we're talking to you out there. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. And
Um,
are we gonna spin the wheel for the final, or is it just
There is
is
no
it just
more. There's just one left, and it is JT's pick. The that Beach Boys album, was it Smile?
the Smile Sessions. I'll explain it to you when we're done. But yeah, it's a very it's an unfinished album that actually came out in 2011 or four. I forget when it was, but I'll explain it off camera. No worries. That'll be next week
that was
for us.
quite a jump there.
Yeah, it's a
11 or
big
4?
gap there.
2004, 2011. I wasn't sure.
You covered a lot of ground there, my friend.
Yeah. No, it was unreleased. It was released in 2011. Yeah, that's right. That sounds about right. Anyways, I digress. That's gonna do it for us, guys. Thanks so much for watching, listening. However, you enjoyed us. Thanks so much for tuning in for our first ever career retrospectives of 2024. Hopefully, you enjoyed this as much as we did. And if you like what we've seen here, subscribe to us on YouTube. If you've heard here, please subscribe to us on podcast format as well. This is a very interesting album for the kind of put down the wheel again. Rolling Stone magazine picked this up on their 500 greatest albums of all time list, so we reviewed it tonight. But if you also don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms as well, simply at the Super Review Show and like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and our Instagram. I'm forgetting what it's called, whatever. It's still Twitter in my opinion.
X.
Whatever. It's X.
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 Yeah,
No,
right.
it's Twitter still, in my opinion. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, guys. For all of us at the Super Review Show, stay safe, take care, and be awesome.